let's show a little bit of what Scotty Middleton is about. And this is a guy I've thought has been the best prospect on his team for 2 years running. And he played with Grady Dick. He played with Buzelis this year. And every time I watch Sunrise Christian, I just went, hey, this Scotty Middleton kid is pretty good. And, I think he's got some deficiencies, or maybe the reason that he's not getting mocked the way that I think he should. But ultimately, I think what he brings to the table is just super intriguing. So this first possession that we're going to see from Middleton is just, what can he do when he doesn't have the ball? And immediately, this is a kid who is going to space the floor. I think that arguably he's the best shooter in this class. It's smooth. I mean, he's got great touch on that thing. It's a quick release. It's everything you kind of want to see. And, I looked up his synergy numbers over the last 2 years at Sunrise Christian, and he's knocking down 42% of his threes over a 2-year sample, which is big time stuff. We see here, little run out and transition, get to the spot, boom, and splash. So, it's not like, even in catch and shoot scenarios, does he have to be stationary as a shooter? You see he's going to be, he has some versatility to that shot.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, man. And I like the nice high release. Stuff all looks good. I think once again, and you know what, Corey, I do want to kind of preface all this by saying what you touched on before, whether it's Middleton or Cadeau or Castle we talk about later. What we're going off of right now, this is all super preliminary stuff. This is all going to change over the course of the next, just under a year, right? So I'm excited to see the development, but I'm with you, man. Middleton, with him, the jumper is very real. Obviously, he's got some off the dribble stuff as well that I know you're going to highlight pretty soon. But simply off of what you're saying here with the catch and shoot stuff, it looks good. Nice quick release, high release, a lot to like.
Yeah, and it's not just even like catch and shoot in the traditional sense. I think he's got some other kind of like DHO, this big time stuff for the NBA. He has to get that little extra dribble in there at the end there, but even still, you see like he's got good size and he's got that quick release. So like it's just something like, I think when you're doing scouting this early, you're like, what is a translatable skill? And to me, like right away, like Scotty's one of the best shooters in the class. Now, I think that when you look at Scotty and you go, all right, he's this great shooter. So why isn't he, talked about like that? I think people see his build, his physique, and you mentioned a little bit of like the off the dribble stuff. I think some people might be a little bit more skeptical. I think, his handle is a little bit stiff almost.
Yes.
He's like a little upright. He has some bend, and his handle's okay, but like, you're going to wonder about like the space creation of it all. You see on this possession here, he's going to get the ball at the wing, top of the key area. And the handle, there's just not a ton of creativity to where he's taking Kwame Evans, who's, long mobile defender, and he's not really baiting him in any direction to create space. So, it's a hard look there, but I think that he has shown, different avenues in which he can knock down shots off the bounce. And they're so young, and Scotty's a little older for his class, but he also started basketball a little bit later. So, I don't, and last year, Brandon Miller was also a guy who was a little bit older for his class. He went number 2 overall. We see here, he's capable of knocking shots down off the bounce. That's in rhythm, off a screen. Hey, if he needs some screens instead of breaking guys down one-on-one, that's fine. It's still something that he looks fully capable of doing. And I think we're going to see in some of the mid-range stuff, he's maybe a little bit more comfortable getting to those areas and self-creating. But he has this this 3-point stuff off the bounce that's developing. One more that I'm going to pull up, which is him coming off in semi-transition here, which, this is a harder shot than it looks, shooting this off the bounce. So Just a quick pull up gets to a spot right over Liam McNeely. I don't know. It's pretty smooth, man.
No, I'm with you. And for our listeners out there, I want to say that Corey is clearly in midseason form. Doesn't take breaks. The man is an absolute grinder. And you took about 5 of the points that I wanted to make about Middleton and what he's doing right now, or what he was doing in Sunrise. But I'm with you. I think the stiffness and the kind of uprightness reminded me a little bit of, well, not that, it's exactly the same, but little hints of like Thon Maker back in the day. It's like, damn, like, why is he just always standing upright? But I'm with you, Corey. Like, beyond that, and it's not as bad as Thon Maker, but there is some fluidity to him. As you mentioned in passing, that some of the mid-range stuff I thought was actually really impressive for him. Even in that game against Link where they lost, I thought, there were a couple of possessions there where he took some really tough shots. That's a really nice shot, little snatch, step back, 3-pointer, really nice one. But I'm with you, dude. I think with Middleton right now, as you said, Corey, because we're in the stage that we are in, right? It's freaking August 2nd right now. It's really, really early. We kind of just have to see what these guys are doing in high school that we think they could do on the next level, and then the level after that. And you just have to start to project, like, with more strength, with tighter handle, a little bit more flexibility. Maybe he gets to Ohio State and he starts doing some yoga. My wife got really into hot yoga this summer while she's been on summer break. So maybe Scotty Middleton does some of that and he improves upon some of that flexibility and mobility. But I'm with you, man. Like, a lot of the shots that he was taking and making were not easy jumpers, dude. These are really tough makes. This is against Link right here. Look at that shot. Nice little pull up in the mid range. And like we mentioned before, like, because he has the size too, right? Like, this becomes a really difficult jumper or play to guard if he's going to continue to develop that handle and continue to be a high level shot maker. So I'm right there with you, man. He's clearly a really intriguing prospect, but of course, I think we're saying all this by saying we also want to see him continue to improve. Want to see him continue to work on his game and tighten up some of the stuff in college. But then also, Corey, I wanted to say, like, with Middleton and Sensabaugh the year before and Branham the year before, Ohio State, they have an eye for these wing perimeter scorers, man. And he's just going to be next in line, I think, this season for them. And it should be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, that was honestly going to be the next point that I brought up, is just that, like, we keep getting almost surprised by these Ohio State guys. And by mid, draft cycle, we're like, oh, these guys are legit. They could play. And, I think that both Branham and Middleton and Bryce, Bryce and Branham, rather, they were allowed to operate in the mid-range. Right. Like, some teams shy away from that a little bit. Like Alabama was a team that, tried to shy away when they could. Ohio State kind of lets guys, operate in areas where they're comfortable. And I think that's going to be really beneficial. The difference is, Middleton's bread and butter really is that 3-point stroke. So, he has that too. So it is a modern game. But, even this, this possession that we're going to watch with Scotty, where he's going to ultimately miss this shot, but
it's nice.
That's a nice move with the between the legs snatchback, and he gets a clean look over Cooper Flagg. And I think it's interesting that that's how Montverde guarded Scotty. They put Cooper Flagg, who the next great prospect, and who do you put on him? You want to put on your defensive stopper. And, to me, that means something, right? He wasn't guarding Buzelis. He's guarding Scotty. So to me, that ultimately, it does mean something, if not everything too, is that other teams might be like, hey, Scotty's the guy we need to stop.
Yeah. And Corey, I do want to say, last draft cycle, when we were watching Brandon Miller preseason, we thought, damn, maybe, he's going to continue to show off some of that mid-range stuff in Alabama. Ultimately, he ended up taking a lot more threes than we expected. And I think part of that was the context that he was in. And along those lines, maybe, for Scotty, maybe he's more comfortable. His bread and butter is the 3, but being at Ohio State in that different setting, maybe he does continue to work on that mid-range and developing that aspect of his game. And then we're talking about, in the same way where we were surprised with Brandon Miller. Miller and his shot diet at Alabama, maybe we get a little surprised by Middleton at Ohio State, and then we really start looking at him as like a bona fide 3-level scorer. So it could be interesting.
I agree 100%. He was also a really good finisher.
Yeah.
He was 66% at the rim, 55% in the half court. That's pretty good. And he's not like super bouncy. He's not super bursty, which is another reason I don't think that he's getting a ton of love, because I don't think he's like highlight play guy. But like you said, like, look, I don't think Scotty Middleton is necessarily going to go number 2 in the draft.
Yeah.
But I do have him in my preseason top 5. And, to me, and a lot of it has to do with the class. Like, I wouldn't have had him in the top 5 of last year's class entering the preseason. But in this one, I do, because I don't really believe in the guys at the top all that much, to be completely honest, especially the guys who are getting, typically mocked in that top 3. And all I'm saying is there is a world that Scotty does ultimately play himself in that direction. He shoots 38, 39, 40% from 3 on good volume, shows off some of that 3-level scoring. Brandon Miller was on the first draft deck post of the year on the draft rankings on the IPO. He came in at 16, I believe. So we have to kind of remember that, these guys, this is just rankings from a couple of outlets that have watched a little bit, and college context and opportunity is going to play a role. And I think if Scotty gets the opportunity, I think he's going to get at Ohio State, he is going to play himself into the opportunity to be one of these big time risers.
Yeah, no, I 1,000,000% agree with you, man. I think that's the reason why I brought up the name Brandon Miller, because of his trajectory last season in college basketball. He wasn't a guy, as you mentioned, that was ranked super high, but with his size and ability, and then also you even just mentioned the athleticism of Scotty Middleton, him not being a bursty, super athletic guy, but he's got skill and he's got size and he's got ability, and so that finesse aspect at that size is really, really valued in the NBA, as we saw Brandon Miller go number 2. So with all of that being considered, I think Middleton, obviously, Corey, right now, we're not trying to make the argument that he should go number 2, right? I don't think we have a concrete opinion on anything in terms of the 2024 class yet, but I like the point that you're making, because just because, we have different outlets saying that Buzelis or Holland or whoever needs to go number 1 doesn't mean that's going to be the case in June of 2024. So I'm 100% there with you. And I think this is the type of stuff where, we record a pod like this in August, and 6 months from now, we turn this back on and go, damn, like maybe we were onto something. So
yeah, for sure. And, I want to only play a couple more clips because we talked about his finishing. I think that, when you see that lack of handle, I don't know if he's going to be one of these guys who gets all the way to the rim a ton off his finishes, but I think that he's a type of guy that plays well off of others. And so I think he's going to have, the opportunity to get a lot of easy baskets. He moves off the ball really well, right? Like, he's going to get opportunities to go backdoor and score off cutting opportunities. And that's where I think his efficiency, he's going to be able to make use of it and be a solid finisher, even if it's not super duper creative in that regard.
Yeah, dude, I'm with you, Corey. I feel like this is the type of stuff. And also, Corey, I think the ultimate point that we're both trying to make, I think you especially trying to make, is that this class, preemptively, once again, this class, at the very top of this class, we're not talking about Victor Wemba.
God bless.
Woo, excuse me. We're not talking about like a Victor Wembanyama or a Scoot Henderson, or maybe not even a Brandon Miller, right? So
right.
With that being the case, if, you know, we don't have that type of franchise changing number one type of option in this class, then a guy like Middleton then can enter this type of space because of his ability and to play, you know, with others and to be a complementary piece. So I get for some people, like the headline might be like, oh my God, how does a guy like this get end up in your preseason top 5? Well, we also have to understand the context once again, which is important. But going back to the finishing core, I'm right there with you. I think he's really going to, as he continues to show off the outside shooting, he's a guy that even in high school was able to show that he could leverage the threat of that shot into opportunities at the rim. And even if he can't, you know, get his head at the rim and absolutely demolish dunks all the time, even from the clips that we're watching right here, maybe not super bouncy, but look at that. Like, that's really good. You know, him using the head fake and once again, the threat of the jumper to get all the way to the rim. I think that's the type of stuff that we could see him doing in college as well.
Yeah, the playing with pace, the little hesitation all the way to the rim, really good stuff. And then I think, you know, with Middleton in regards to maybe, you know, some of the other guys that we're going to cover, I really buy him as a defender. You know, he's that ideal 6'7" long. He's skinny right now, right? But he's just like, he can move. He's got length. He's competitive. You know, he can get up in you. He can guard multiple positions. So he's just a guy that I think is going to be a two-way guy. And really that's what we see are what teams are looking for. They're not just looking for wings. They're looking for two-way wings. And that's Scotty. He's got that in him. So you're never going to really have to worry necessarily about this guy getting like played off the floor. I mean, you know, as he develops as a player, he has that two-way potential. So baseline for me, it's like, all right, so we're looking at a guy who's going to shoot high volume threes at close to 40% based on his history as a shooter. And he's going to be able to defend like right away. That gives him a pretty steady floor, in my opinion. It doesn't make sense that he hasn't really been ranked, but you know, who knows? Maybe he doesn't get the opportunity, a ton of playing time this year. I think he's going to, but I really like that two-way ability that he brings alongside some of the offensive skills.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, dude. I think for me, I'm actually not concerned about his frame. Like, I look at his frame and I think he's going to add muscle. Like, I'm more worried about Buzelis, his teammate, than I am about Scotty. Like, I look at Scotty's legs and his legs look fine to me. The where you froze it right now, you see, oh, it's gone now. But if you look at his back, if you look at his back, it's broad enough, dude. And you can tell, like, he's going to add muscle. I'm not saying he's going to be, like, swole out of his mind. But in terms of functional athleticism, functional strength, I think he's going to get there no problem. But the most important thing that you're looking for at this level and in college as well is that type of attitude, right? The lock-in, the focus, the buy-in, the effort. That's the type of stuff you're looking forward to. And I think even from the clips that you're showing right here, you see that with Middleton. Maybe it's because of the role that he played and who he played with on that team. But, you know, I never got the feeling of it like him being like a diva and taking plays off and stuff like that. Like, he was locked in. He was trying hard, fighting hard, trying to be a good complementary piece. And, you know, if he has that two-way ability, that's just going to help his stock a ton.
Yeah, no doubt. So I really like Scotty. Like I said, I have him top 5 right now. And I feel confident in that. I don't care that he's not on any mocks or any boards or whatever. I'm trusting my eyes, and I felt like he was one of the more intriguing prospects over the last 2 years, going back and watching him compete and play in high-level competition. So I'm really intrigued to watch him at Ohio State next year.